Welcome to District 32, education and insights for today's business leaders.
Hello, my name is Lorraine Garvey and I am here with the infamous Wayne Curtis of Notice Design. How are you, Wayne?
I'm great, thanks, Lorraine.
Wow, 30 years in business. I saw your birthday come up on social media the other day and I was just like, wow. How does that feel?
Well, apart from being old, feeling old.
Yeah, I thought there might be a little bit of that, but
yeah, look, I do. I feel like I've been dragged for a rose bush sometimes, and other times I feel like I'm on top of the world. You know, that's the business journey in 30 years. Had some really good wins and met some extraordinary good people that have worked with me for years. You know, I've got some business relationships that are over 20 years going. So you don't keep those relationships unless you sort of stay relevant and communicate well.
Yeah,
that's what I do. You know, it's all about communication at the end of the day. So it's all fun and games, and it still keep me on the edge, so to speak. You know, I'm still trying to keep my head around the game and what's happening. Maybe where I'm sitting now in life is different to what it was 30 years ago. I mean, I didn't start my business the right way, that's for sure. It was a split decision, and if I'd have known better, I probably wouldn't have done it.
That's what most people say, right? If you knew how hard it was, you wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I just like, what was I thinking?
So do you think though, like, I'm going to ask you about your highs and your lows and some of the biggest learnings you've got in a second, but just on the back of what you said, do you foresee the next 10 years to be the same?
Yes and no. I do not see, I'll say this to everyone, I don't see myself retiring.
Yeah. I
still love what I do. I still get a buzz out of it. But I'll be working it differently. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So probably each year I try to be a little bit smarter, work a little bit smarter, and I'll probably continue to do that. What my business will look like, well, there's a handful of things that it might look like. I'm not really sold on any of them, but it will happen organically. You know, that's cool.
Yeah, okay. So that's cool. And I guess that's what sort of attitude you get after 30 years in business, right? I'm going to go with the flow. If it feels good, I'm going to lean in. If it doesn't, I'm going to back off. Which door you want to open depends on your life circumstances. That will close that one. So look, you know, 30 years, you got to have a lot of learnings in there, Wayne. You know, what are your biggest, massive learnings that have carried you all the way through the decades?
Yep. Definitely to diversify and keep my finger on the pulse. So, you know, when I first started, I was kind of freelancing for a couple of advertising agencies. I started my business because the advertising agency I was working for went out of business, and I just sort of went, you know, stuff them, I'm going out on my own. But I had all my eggs, you know, in one basket. I was at their mercy, and you know, they were terrible payers. And there were weeks where I was thinking, how am I going to feed my family? Like it was like crazy. So that in terms of learning, diversifying, getting a lot of clients as opposed to just working with a couple, and it's very easy to fall into that trap. We all do it. We all of a sudden realize that, oh my God, for the last couple of months, 90% of the work I'm doing has been for this one client, because it just kept you busy. And you've got to look at that in reality and go, right, you know, we've got to change this up, or we've got to put some parameters in place so that doesn't become the norm, so to speak. And also then learning very early on that I needed to outsource. I needed to find a bloody bookkeeper, you know, an accountant. I didn't want to do that stuff. It did my head in. I'm essentially a creative, although I did have to learn how to use both sides of my brain, you know, the creative side and then the logical, the facts and figures side. And I did have to work hard at bringing them together, but it still wasn't my forte and it wasn't what I wanted to do. So definitely finding the right people and then creating relationships within business, that really was a momentous change for me. And then probably I would say the next big thing was networking in some way, shape or form, transformed my business. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to watch you win, and I like to. I've not used you as an example for a while. You'll use you an example again. And it's just, the people who have been in business for a long time, because you see people, they come and they go and come and go, and you meet people 15 years later with a new idea or a new product. And Perth, as we know, is a small place.
Yes.
But the people who are consistent and have longevity and sustainability are the people who have been consistent in their relationships.
Yeah.
Consistent on how you show up with people, and consistency on knowing that that's what's going to feed you. And if you just work that one system, you don't need all the bells and whistles.
No, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was that saying that there's no friends in business. So I'm going, how can this be? If you've got business relationships, why wouldn't they be treated any differently to your best friend? I mean, it's turning up, it's backing up your promises, it's being there, and it's showing respect. I mean, it's not hard. If you're dealing with an ex-friend or a business owner, then you remove them from your life, and you concentrate on the relationships that are working, and the respect has got to be mutual, of course. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that's a massive part of why my business has stayed around for so long. I've got some really good, long friends, business acquaintances. We watch out for each other. We help each other grow. We've got each other's backs. And, yeah, I mean, I just don't really think there's any other way of being when it comes to business. I don't get it any other way.
Yeah. It's a long game.
Yeah, yeah. And if I'm being honest, I've never thought of it as a long game. But yeah, now that I've been in it 30 years, it was, without probably me noticing that or making that a part of what I was trying to achieve. I was taught early on when I was a teenager by my dad serving petrol at a service station, or at his service station, that you look after people and you do the right thing by them, and you show them that you do actually care and that you're honest. They'll always come back, because they will appreciate that. And we've all had experiences with people and businesses that don't do that. So we know what we want. We know how we want to be treated. And then why would you not treat other people like that? So I've pretty much stuck to that, my whole business life, and it's worked.
And what about then when, this would be a really interesting question, and for anybody watching this, there was no prep, right? I'm just throwing them at them. But, we often hear business owners say, we got to stop and smell the roses, stop and celebrate the wins.
Yeah.
Throughout 30 years, do you remember those highlights and achievements and milestones? Like, you can remember getting to that maybe the first paycheck, and maybe the first $5,000 job, or maybe the first retainer client, or that. Like, have you got a history of those, or are they easy forgotten? What is?
I think there's a lot that I have forgotten. There's a couple that I do remember. But also, I pair that off with what's happening in my life outside of business as well. So, we've all heard that before. When we're good inside and mentally, and we're connected to ourselves, and it provides dividends in the real world, in the outside world. So I've always been a firm believer in that. So I can always tag something that was kind of momentous to me in the business with something that was really cool and happening outside of my business, because I think they kind of overlap. And that energy, that universal energy is just vibrating through everything. So, I've always seen I look out for the signs. I see the signs. I see when things go well. I notice them and I show them respect, because I want more of that. And I continue to do the things that I know that provide that. But yeah, the first time I worked on a big, my first big logo was for the West Australian Cricket Association. I worked on the Western Warriors logo, and I was employed as a back end part of the crew, the design team, and was essentially being used as a freelancer. And I did all the grunt work, all the groundwork. And then the art director in the agency came along and put his final touches on it. And, I went, damn, what am I doing? But we got it across the line, and I was part of that. And I felt like I'd really achieved something. So that was, for me, that was a big thing. And it's still stuck in my memory. But I also have a fond love of typography and design and space. And I learned all that in and around when I was signwriting. So I'm a signwriter by trade. I was taught by an Englishman, a Brushy, and I still have my original signwriting box. And so I pay respect and tribute to my historical connections in that way. And so I still that still flows through a lot of my work, and that still creates a buzz about what I do. So, that love of typography and design is a big thing around what I do. But I still just love people. I love meeting people. I love spending time with people. I love seeing people smile and laugh, and I love being around that. And if I can be part of that and growing their business, helping them make more money, make better connection with their clients, then I'm achieving what I set out to do in the first one, and that is to be a good dad and a good husband, be a part of my whole family's life, and have great relationships, great friends, know good people, and affect people's lives through what I bring to business. It's pretty simple, really.
Yeah, well, you think it's pretty simple, but a lot of us, we go into business for one reason, for a certain lifestyle, and then we let the business consume us, and we end up with far from the lifestyle that we went into business we have, and we forget that it's a vehicle or a tool that we use to get somewhere and to do something. It's not, it becomes our everything. So, so you remember the people who helped you get there throughout your business. Wayne, for anybody who is in year one of business, what's your advice for those guys? Year one or year two, or you're still finding your feet? We don't know who we are. What's your advice for those?
Well, you don't know everything, so you need to find and create relationships with people that can help augment your business. Whether that's from an admin point of view, or an accountant or bookkeeper, or it's external sources, that people that you can use that help create your product. Instead of, I think there's a lot of people that try and do everything all of the time, when really they can outsource that, and they can use someone within a District 32 group. I use printers, writers. I have relationships with digital marketing people, web building companies, embroiderers, sign companies. All these people I use as part of what we do when we're creating brands for people. We manage that, and we have a really trustworthy team of suppliers, and they're friends. They're good at what they do. They know my expectations. And if you're starting out down that path, if that's your business model, I think clear communication is the main key. If you're clearly communicating to all those people and they know what your expectations are, then you should get the results that you're after. And just don't be afraid to outsource. And for God's sakes, get out from behind the desk, meet people, do things, and create those relationships, because they're the things that, when times get tough, and they will get tough, it's part of business. It's cycles, always cycles. It's those people and those relationships that can really make a difference. Wayne,
thank you very much. There are 30 years in business. It's just a monumental, accomplishment. It's great to hear you come through all that time and still talk about the relationships in business, and don't try to be all things and all men. You don't need the whole pie. You want 100% of this pie, not 2% of that pie.
Yes.
But Wayne, why don't you sign off with your business name and your tagline, and we'll wrap it up there.
Okay, so it's Notions Design Company. Now, the tagline I've had for years is fluid thinking, solid results. I've tried to change it a few times, but I just can't get rid of it. I can't get rid of it. It's a default.
I love it.
It's a default. That came from Bruce Lee saying, if he said, one of his famous interviews, he said, you have to be fluid. You have to be like water, my friend. You go into the teacup, you become the teacup. You go into the glass, you become the glass. And so the way I look at myself and the way I work with my clients is I become their business in order to understand and get the results that are needed. So fluid thinking, solid results. There you go.
Wayne Curtis, thank you very much for sharing your time with us. Happy anniversary, and we look forward to being part of the journey for the next 10 years.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to District 32, the power of connection, insights and inspiration by today's business leaders.